You also want to make sure that you're not cramming heat adaptation into the final few days of your race. You don't want to be adding a stress of heat adaptation by desperately, when you arrive to race site, trying to go out in the middle of the sun and train in race week in those harsh conditions. Instead, we want to get the body equipped to become the most effective cooling machine it can in the weeks leading up to the race. And it turns out there's a performance advantage to doing this. There are a few main tools that you can use in your toolbox. The first is leveraging a sauna or steam room. If you have access to that, it's really good. But the good news is you don't need access to that in order for this to be effective. There are also some DIY home protocols that you can use. There's also a third element, which is to integrate some heat training into your actual sessions. So let's start with that, integrating into your training sessions. Now, when we talk about this, I think it's important to ground ourselves. As an athlete, you are already managing huge competing stresses. You have everything that you have in your life, family, work, etc. You potentially have travel with that work. You have hopefully really high quality sleep, but if you have any compromised sleep, that's a stressor. Hopefully you're fueling and eating with really good quality foods, but if not, that's a stressor. Are you hydrating on a daily basis? If not, that's a stressor. So we're always managing that. And then we're loading training stress. And we're looking to get the most specific training stress we can, and we're trying to maximize the amount within the context of our busy lives. So we're always juggling and managing a whole bunch of competing demands. Realize that when we talk about adding heat preparation, whether it's the sauna, which we'll come to, whether it's DIY, or whether it's this, adding heat training stimulus into your regular training, we are strategically adding an additional stressor on top of it. So you've got to be smart on this. It is very much the last thing. In other words, it's the first thing to go if you're starting to accumulate fatigue, if you're starting to navigate periods of high stress. Alrighty. So with your training addition, what this is putting yourself deliberately in high heat environments. That's either training in the middle of the day, or maybe it's training inside on a treadmill or a bike where you've got additional clothing on, maybe removing the fan, even in an extreme case, putting those two pieces of equipment in something like a bathroom with the shower running where it's really creating high heat and humidity. So this is putting the body in that stimulus of high heat and humidity to force adaptations, because the body is an adaptive machine and it's good. Here's the key thing with this. You only want to do this in the less specific sessions. So you want to protect the integrity of those very, very demanding interval sessions or race simulators as much as you can. You want the quality of the physiological and mechanical stimulus reserved for the specific intervals. So any key sessions that you're doing, I would promote not adding heat stimulus to that. Instead, do it on the lower stress and just reduce the lower stress even lower. Zone 1 and Zone 2 work, the conversational exercise. In fact, one of the things that we have a lot of athletes do is if they're going out for, let's say, a 3-hour bike ride, we might say, okay, go out for 2.5 hours, the last half an hour, inside, extra clothes, no fan, hot environment, get the heat stimulus. So really protect the integrity. I don't want to have a high heat, no fan environment when you're trying to do 6 by 4 minutes best effort. You're having 2 trains going on a track in competing directions. We don't want to do that. Really reserve it for those low stress sessions where you're adding a little bit of a stress, but therefore you're reducing actual workload even more. That's the way that you introduce in the final month, 2 to 3 weeks, up to 4 weeks at most, before your hot race, you're introducing it into the equation a little bit. So that's how you manipulate, and you add clothing, you reduce fans, you put yourself in a hot environment, etc. And that's good. That's great. Now, if you are forced to train in Texas or Florida, you kind of get it anyway, because quite often, unless you train very early in the morning, you're forced to operate in a high heat environment. When I first started doing the sport, I was living in South Carolina doing my master's degree. I was heat adapted because I trained a lot in the afternoons on the bike. And so I had more blood in my blood. That was a nice benefit of it. It's pretty sticky while I was doing it, though, I have to say. What about the sauna protocol? So this is the MAC day. This is what you want to do, and I'm going to talk you through it a little bit. I like athletes to do this 2 to 3 weeks before travel day heading to the race. Alrighty? Most days, it's great if you can do it all, but most people don't have the access to it. Most days, you want to integrate this after your training session. So again, we protect the integrity of the actual training session. Let's just use a case study. Imagine that you're sitting on the bike training for an hour and you do a 15-minute treadmill run-off. Great, 75 minutes. How you execute this is when you have completed the session, number one, you don't rehydrate. Alrighty, so for the last 10 or 15 minutes, you try and avoid too much hydration because we're looking to place the body and the kidneys under stress here. You then immediately jump into the sauna. You get into that sauna or steam room and you sit in there for 10, 15, 20, 25, 30 minutes. Now, over the course of the days, as you lead up towards the travel to the race, you might begin to get familiar. Your body will actually start to benefit from the physiological adaptations. You'll get familiar with it. You'll be able to extend the duration in there. But at least 10 minutes of a stimulus, and it should be uncomfortable. While you are sitting in there, you are not rehydrating. No fluids, alrighty? What we're doing there is we're placing a lot of stress on the body. The kidneys are going, oh my goodness me, this is hot. I need to cool myself down, and they release a hormone, vasopressin. And that is a call to action for the body to increase plasma volume. So if I had my 6 liters, maybe I've got 6 1/4, 6 1/3, now 6.5 liters. I've got more blood to circulate. Therefore, I'm removing the tension on the ropes of that 3-way tug of war: skin, gut, and of course, muscles. So when you do that on a day-to-day basis, we're starting to become more effective as a cooling machine. You want to do it daily or any other day, and you want to pull the plug and not do it on days that you're feeling particularly fatigued. Now, if you don't have access to a sauna or a steam room, don't worry, you can do it with a hot bath with running water. Fill up the bath as hot as you can take, okay? Get in, soak, undo the plug, run hot water to keep it topping up, And you want to be lying there neck high. It is claustrophobic, and it's exactly the same protocol. No hydration during, and then finish and complete it.